The maintenance tunnel smelled like burnt metal and recycled air. Taeyong crawled through the narrow space, his toolbox scraping against the floor panels. Station Kesmet never stopped breaking down. Something always needed fixing in the lower decks, where nobody important ever came. That was exactly why he liked working here. He reached the data core junction and pulled out his scanner. The readout showed another failing connection in the old salvage section. The station master kept installing ancient equipment from dead ships, never caring if the technology matched or not. It made Taeyong's job harder, but it also meant he rarely saw other people down here. Being invisible kept him alive. Taeyong opened the access panel and froze. Behind the standard circuitry sat something that made his heart stop. The design was unmistakable, even after 70 years. Human technology. Real Earth-made components, probably salvaged from the debris field after the planet burned. His hands shook as he traced the connections. This shouldn't be here. The Dominion destroyed everything human after the genocide. Finding Earth tech was illegal across the entire galaxy. Someone had hidden this piece carefully, buried it deep in the station's systems where no inspector would look. He should walk away. Report it to Minho, his supervisor. Let someone else handle it. But his fingers moved on their own, connecting his scanner to the human components, just to see what it was, just to touch something from home one more time. The device activated instantly. A pulse of light shot through the circuits. Taeyong yanked his scanner away, but it was too late. The human tech began broadcasting, sending a signal he recognized from his childhood. A distress beacon. Old Earth military protocol, designed to punch through any interference and broadcast across light years. No, 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 Taeyong whispered, frantically trying to shut it down. His fingers flew across the controls, but the beacon had already embedded itself in the station's communication array. The signal was boosting, using Kesmet's entire network to amplify itself. He finally managed to kill the power, but the damage was done. The beacon had transmitted for 47 seconds. Long enough for any listening ship to triangulate the source. Taeyong sat back against the tunnel wall, his mind racing. 47 seconds of human distress signal. The Dominion monitored everything. Their hunter ships would already be calculating jump coordinates. They would come to investigate, to find whatever human remnant had dared to reveal itself. They would find him. He had maybe 2 days before the Dominion arrived. Less if they had ships nearby. Taeyong grabbed his tools and crawled back through the tunnel faster than he had come. His small quarters in the lower residential section had never felt like home. But now he had to abandon even that. Pack everything important in one bag. Wipe his digital footprint. Disappear. Before the hunters arrived. His room was exactly as he left it, sparse, clean, anonymous. The habits of someone who expected to run at any moment. He pulled his emergency bag from under the bed and started packing. Clothes, documents, credits, the photo of his mother he kept hidden in a false bottom. As he worked, his mind kept returning to the beacon. Something about it bothered him beyond the immediate danger. The components were placed too deliberately. Hidden, but functional. And when he had connected his scanner, the beacon activated with a specific sequence. Not a random distress call. It had transmitted coordinates. Taeyong pulled up his scanner's memory logs. There, buried in the signal data, was a star chart reference. Coordinates pointing to a system that should not exist. His hands went cold. He knew those numbers. His mother had made him memorize them as a child, made him repeat them until they were burned into his brain. She died before she could tell him what they meant. Someone had planted that beacon knowing a human would eventually find it. Knowing they would recognize the coordinates. It was not an accident. It was a message. But from who? A knock at his door made him jump. His hand went to the small plasma cutter he kept for emergencies. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. Tay? You in there? Minho's voice came through the door. The big insectoid was one of the few beings on the station who had never treated Taeyong with suspicion. They had shared drinks, fixed impossible repairs together, covered for each other during inspections. Taeyong almost opened the door. Almost. But Minho worked for station security on the side. If word about the beacon had already spread, Minho might have orders to bring him in for questioning. Better to slip away quietly than risk a confrontation. He grabbed his bag and headed for the ventilation shaft. Every room in the lower decks had them. Fire safety regulations that nobody bothered to update. Tae-young had memorized every shaft and tunnel in his section years ago. The docking bay was 3 levels up and half a station away. He knew a cargo hauler that left every cycle for the independent colonies. The captain did not ask questions if you paid extra. Tae-young had enough credits saved for passage to somewhere far from Dominion space. He crawled through the shafts, listening to the station around him. Normal sounds. Workers finishing their shifts. Cargo loaders moving containers. Nobody running. No alarms. Maybe the beacon had not been noticed yet. Maybe he had time. The shaft opened near the docking bay's maintenance entrance. Tae-young dropped down into an empty corridor and walked quickly toward the public areas. Just another worker, heading home. Nothing suspicious. He made it 20 steps before someone grabbed his arm. Tae-young spun, reaching for his plasma cutter, but stopped. The woman holding his arm wore a station security uniform, but her grip was careful, not aggressive. She was human. Tae-young felt his world shift. He had not seen another human face in 8 years. Not since the last survivor he knew had died of old age in a colony. On the outer rim, humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. The woman pulled him into a side corridor, away from the main traffic. Her eyes were dark and alert, scanning for threats. She was younger than him, maybe late 20s, with short black hair and the lean build of someone who lived ready to fight or run. "You triggered it too soon," she said quietly in Korean. Perfect Seoul accent, like his mother used to speak. "They were not ready for you yet." Before Tae-young could respond, she pressed something against his neck. A stun weapon. His vision blurred immediately. His legs gave out and she caught him, lowering him to the floor with practiced ease. "Sorry," she whispered as darkness took him. "But there is not time to explain. The Dominion is already here." The last thing Tae-young saw before unconsciousness claimed him was her face, calm and determined. And in her eyes, he saw something he had not seen in his own reflection for years. Hope. The station's ambient noise faded away. Somewhere in the distance, alarms began to sound. The hunters had arrived, and they were looking for the source of that human signal. Looking for him. 5. Look. Azadin. 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 But as Tae-young's consciousness slipped away, one thought stayed with him through the darkness. He was not alone anymore. Tae-young woke to the sound of voices speaking Korean. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then pain exploded behind his eyes, and he remembered. The beacon. The woman. The stun weapon. He sat up fast, immediately regretting it as the room spun. Strong hands steadied him, and a cup of water appeared in front of his face. He drank gratefully, using the time to look around. The room was small and windowless, hidden deep in what looked like an old cargo section. Equipment lined the walls, most of it modified human tech that should not exist. 3 people watched him with expressions ranging from concern to suspicion. The woman who had stunned him sat closest. "I am Hana. I am Hana. I am Hana. I am Hana," she said. "We have about 6 hours before the Dominion tears this station apart, looking for you. So I need you to listen carefully and save your questions for later." Tae-young nodded, his throat too dry for words despite the water. An older woman stepped forward. She carried herself with authority, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. "My name is Ji-won. I lead this cell of an organization we call the Scattered. We are human survivors living in hiding across the galaxy. There are more of us than you might think." "How many?" Tae-young managed to ask. "Maybe 10,000, Ji-won said. "Maybe less. We stay hidden, change identities, move constantly. We survive." A large man with scars across his face and arms leaned against the wall, watching Taeyang with cold eyes. "I am Do-yun," he said. "And before you ask, yes, we know who you are. We have been watching you for 3 years, waiting to see if you were worth the risk of contact." Taeyang's mind reeled. 3 years. They had known he was here and done nothing. Let him live in isolation. Thinking he was alone, Hana must have seen his expression because she touched his arm gently. "We had to be sure. The Dominion has hunters who pretend to be human survivors. They infiltrate, gather information, then strike. We have lost entire cells that way. We could not risk contacting you until we were certain." "The beacon," Taeyang said. "I triggered it by accident. I did not mean to." "It was not an accident," Ji-won interrupted. "We planted that beacon 2 years ago. We needed to know if you would recognize it, if you would understand what it meant, and we needed to see how you would react." Ji-won. And we needed to see how you would react. "You used me as bait?" Anger pushed through Taeyang's confusion. "We used you as a signal," Ji-won corrected. "That beacon was not just a distress call. It carried coordinates and a genetic signature trigger. Other scattered cells across this sector received it. They know now that we found someone special." "I am not special. I am just a maintenance worker trying to survive." Do-yun laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "You really do not know, do you?" Ji-won. "Show him." Ji-won pulled out a data tablet and handed it to Taeyang. The screen showed genetic analysis reports, family trees, historical records. Most of it made no sense to him until he saw his mother's name. Dr. Kim Eun-ji, Chief Researcher for Earth's Ancient Technology Division. "Your mother was one of the most brilliant scientists humanity ever produced," Ji-won said quietly. "She discovered the truth about human DNA, about why the Dominion really destroyed Earth." "Oh, truther." Taeyang stared at the screen. He had known his mother was a scientist, but she died when he was young. His father never spoke about her work, only taught him how to hide, how to survive. "The Dominion told the galaxy that the Vraken swarm destroyed Earth," Hana explained. "A tragic accident, a primitive world caught in an ancient war. But that was a lie. The Dominion ordered Earth's destruction themselves." "Why?" The word came out, as barely a whisper. "Because of what your mother discovered," Ji-won said. She tapped the tablet, bringing up images of strange symbols and ancient structures. "There was a civilization before all the current species. We call them the Ancients. They left behind technology scattered across the galaxy, powerful technology that nobody fully understands. The Dominion controls most of the ancient sites," Do-yun added. "They built their entire power structure on monopolizing that technology." "But there was one problem." Hana leaned forward. "The ancient technology responds to genetics, specific genetic markers. And humans have those markers in our DNA, more strongly than any other known species." Taeyang looked up from the tablet. "That is impossible. Humans are new to space. We only had basic technology before the Dominion destroyed us to prevent anyone from learning the truth." Ji-won finished. "Your mother proved that humans are not a new species. We are descendants of the ancients themselves, scattered and forgotten over millions of years, but carrying their legacy in our genes." The room felt too small suddenly. Taeyang stood, needing to move. "If that is true, why did the ancients not help us? Where are they now?" "Gone," Do-yun said flatly. "Disappeared millions of years ago. Nobody knows where or why. They left behind their technology and nothing else." "Except us," Hana added softly. Taeyang paced the small space, trying to process everything. It explained so much. Why the Dominion had been so thorough in hunting down survivors. Why they destroyed every trace of Earth. They were not just eliminating a species. They were eliminating competition. The coordinates in the beacon, he said suddenly. My mother made me memorize them. Where do they lead? Jiwon and Hana exchanged glances. A place we call the Hollow, Jiwon said. A dead system with ancient structures. Your mother went there before Earth fell. She was trying to access something. We think she succeeded, but she never returned. And you want me to go there? We need you to go there, Jiwon corrected. Your genetic signature is stronger than any human we have tested. If anyone can activate whatever your mother found, it is you. What if I refuse? Doyun pushed off the wall, his hand moving to a weapon at his belt. Hana immediately stepped between them. Nobody is forcing you, she said firmly, glaring at Doyun until he backed down. But you need to understand what is at stake. The scattered are dying out. We cannot have children safely because genetic diversity is too limited. Every year we lose people to old age, accidents, dominion hunters. In 50 years, there will be no humans left anywhere. She took his hand, her grip warm and urgent. Whatever is in the hollow might save us. Your mother thought it was worth dying for. We think it is worth fighting for. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. A voice over the intercom announced in Galactic Standard that Dominion Inquisitor ships had docked, and all personnel should remain in designated areas for security sweeps. They are here, Doyun growled. We are out of time. Jiwon moved with swift efficiency, pulling weapons from hidden compartments. Everyone grab what you can carry. We evacuate to the transport in Bay 7. Move now. Taeyang found himself swept along as the group rushed through hidden corridors he never knew existed. Hana stayed close to him, a compact rifle in her hands. The sounds of the station had changed. Footsteps echoed everywhere. Orders being shouted. Civilians screaming as Dominion soldiers roughly cleared sections. They reached a maintenance shaft and climbed down 3 levels. The bay entrance was ahead, the door already opening as they approached. But as they stepped through, Dominion soldiers appeared at the far end of the corridor behind them. Contact! Doyun shouted, returning fire. Energy bolts lit up the narrow space. Hana pushed Taeyang toward the bay. Go! Get to the ship! But he hesitated, looking back at his people fighting. His people. When had he started thinking of them that way? Jiwon appeared at his side, blood running from a cut on her forehead. Your mother died protecting what is in the hollow. Do not waste her sacrifice by dying here. Run! See. They burst into the docking bay where a small transport ship sat waiting. Engines already hot. Doyun and 2 others Taeyang had not met yet. Laid down covering fire, as everyone rushed up the loading ramp. The ship lifted before the ramp fully closed. Taeyang caught a glimpse of Dominion troops flooding into the bay, their weapons tracking the rising transport. Then the bay doors exploded outward as the pilot activated emergency thrusters. Station Kesmet fell away behind them as they accelerated into open space. Through the viewport, Taeyang could see Inquisitor ships breaking from the station, pursuing them with terrifying speed. They are gaining, the pilot shouted. I cannot outrun them. Jiwon gripped her seat, face pale but determined. Get us clear of the station mass. We will jump as soon as we can. But Taeyang was not listening. He was staring ahead, at the empty space between them and the Dominion ships. At coordinates that suddenly appeared on the navigation display. The same coordinates his mother had made him memorize. Something was happening there. Space was bending, light reflecting off nothing. A ship was decloaking. Massive and elegant, its hull marked with ancient symbols that glowed with soft light. It appeared directly between their transport and the Dominion pursuers, weapons already powering up. Hana grabbed Taeyang's arm. What is that? He shook his head, unable to speak. Unable to do anything but stare at the ancient vessel as it reached out to him across the void. He could feel it somehow, feel it recognizing something in his blood, in his genes. The ship had been waiting 70 years for someone like him to come. waiting for him to claim it. The ancient ship opened its docking bay like a mouth welcoming them home. Their small transport flew inside, guided by systems none of them controlled. The moment they crossed the threshold, the bay doors sealed and the ship accelerated away from the Dominion vessels at impossible speeds. Taeyang unbuckled and moved to the transport's viewport. Behind them, the Inquisitor ships tried to follow, but the ancient vessel was already too far ahead, moving in ways that defied physics as he understood them. Space bent around its hull, distances becoming meaningless. What just happened? Doyun demanded, checking his weapons as if they might help against whatever was happening. Ji-won stared at her data tablet, her eyes wide. The ship is ancient design, fully functional. This changes everything. If we can control it, I can control it. Taeyang said, quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He could not explain how he knew, but he felt the ship's systems in his mind like extra limbs. It was waiting for his commands, responding to his thoughts. How? Hana asked, stepping closer. I do not know. I can just feel it. Like it recognizes me. The transport speakers crackled to life. A voice emerged, speaking Korean with an accent Taeyang had not heard in 20 years. His mother's voice. Welcome aboard, my son. I have waited so long for you to find me. Taeyang's legs nearly gave out. Hana caught his arm, keeping him steady. That is impossible, he whispered. It is not your mother, Ji-won said, though her voice shook slightly. It must be an AI construct, using her voice patterns from old records. Not just her voice, the AI replied. I am an imprint of Dr. Kim Eun-ji, created in her final days. Her knowledge, her memories, her personality. I am as close to your mother as technology can achieve. Tears burned Taeyang's eyes. Why? Why did you leave this for me? Because Earth was dying and I could not save it. But I could save you. I could save what we learned. The AI paused, and when it spoke again, the pain in its voice sounded terribly real. I am sorry, Taeyang. I am so sorry I could not come back to you. The transport's controls went dark as the ancient ship took full control. Lights illuminated a path deeper into the vessel. The AI spoke again. Gentle, but urgent. Come to the command center. I will explain everything. But you must hurry. The Dominion is calling reinforcements. We have hours, not days, before they bring ships that can hurt us. The group moved through corridors that felt both alien and strangely familiar. The ship had been designed for humans, Taeyang realized. Or for the ancients, who became humans. The proportions felt right. The gravity comfortable. Even the ambient lighting seemed chosen for human eyes. The command center was vast, dominated by a spherical display, showing the space around them. Holographic controls floated at stations clearly meant for multiple operators. At the center stood a raised platform that called to Taeyang. He climbed the steps without thinking. The moment his feet touched the platform, light exploded through his mind. Knowledge flooded in. Languages, mathematics, physics, history. The entire database of an ancient warship downloading directly into his brain. Taeyang screamed and fell to his knees. It felt like his skull was splitting open to make room for information no human mind was meant to hold. Hana rushed to his side, but Ji-won held her back. Do not touch him. The bonding process cannot be interrupted. It is killing him, Hana shouted. It is changing him. Ji-won corrected, her voice cold. This is what we needed. This is what will save us. Through the pain, Taeyang could hear his mother's voice. Not the AI now, but his real mother's memories embedded in the ship's data. He saw her working frantically in a laboratory as alarms blared. Saw her making the hard choice to leave Earth, to come to this ship and prepare it for whoever might find it. For him, he saw what she had discovered. The truth about humanity. Humans were not descendants of the ancients. Humans were ancients. The original form before genetic manipulation and millions of years of evolution created all the other species in the galaxy. When the ancients needed to hide from an enemy they could not fight, they had seeded countless worlds with their base genetic code. Most of those seeds died out or evolved into something unrecognizable. But Earth had survived. Humans were the last pure ancients in the galaxy. The only ones who could still access their technology without modification. That was why the Dominion destroyed Earth. Not from fear of competition, but from fear of replacement. If humans spread across the galaxy and began activating ancient sites, the Dominion's power would collapse overnight. The download ended. Taeyang gasped, feeling like he had been drowning and finally reached air. Hana was there immediately, helping him sit up. Blood ran from his nose and ears. But his eyes were clear. "I remember," he said hoarsely. "I remember everything." He stood on shaking legs and looked at the command display. With a thought, it responded. Star charts appeared, showing the location his mother's coordinates pointed to. The hollow system. "We need to go there," he said. "My mother left something. Something that can change everything." "What?" Jiwon demanded, climbing onto the platform beside him. "What did she find?" "The archive. The central database of the ancient civilization. Everything they knew, everything they built, all of it stored in one location. My mother accessed it, but she could not retrieve the data. She needed someone with stronger genetic markers." "You," Hana breathed. Taeyang nodded. "The ship is called Sojourn. It is one of the last true ancient warships. My mother prepared it for this mission. To take her heir to the archive and claim our inheritance." Doyun pushed through the group, his face hard. "And what about the Dominion? They will follow us. They will bring everything they have to stop us. Then we fight," Taeyang said simply. The words felt strange in his mouth. But right. He had spent his whole life hiding, running, surviving. Maybe it was time to do more than just survive. The AI spoke, and this time Taeyang could hear the complex systems behind his mother's voice. "I must warn you, Taeyang. Using the ship's weapons requires a price. Ancient technology draws power from the pilot's life force. Each battle, each activation of the weapons, will age you, burn through your genetic potential." "How much?" Hana asked, her voice tight with concern. "That depends on how much power is used. Small actions are sustainable, but a full battle could cost years, even decades." Jiwon stepped forward, her eyes bright with possibility. "But with the archive, we could find a way around that limitation. We could unlock everything the ancients knew." "Maybe," the AI agreed. "Or we could unleash something worse. The ancients sealed the archive for a reason. My memories show that something happened before they disappeared. Something that frightened them enough to hide their greatest achievements." The command display suddenly flashed red. New contacts were appearing at the edge of the system. Dominion ships jumping in. A lot of them. "They found us," Doyun growled, checking his weapons again uselessly. "What do we do?" Taeyang studied the display. He could feel the Sojourn's weapon systems waiting for his command. Massive energy reserves built up over 70 years of waiting. Enough power to destroy every ship in that fleet. Enough power to cost him most of his life. "We run," he decided. "Set course for the hollow. Maximum speed. They will follow," Jiwon protested. "They will never stop hunting us." "I know. But first, we need to reach the archive. After that." He looked at Hana, saw the concern in her eyes, the fear of losing him before they even had a chance to know each other. "After that, we will see." The Sojourn turned and accelerated toward the hollow system. Behind them, the Dominion fleet pursued with murderous intent. But as they fled, Taeyang noticed something on the display that made his blood run cold. New contacts were appearing throughout the sector. Not Dominion ships. Something else. Something that existed partially outside normal space. visible only as distortions in the fabric of reality. AI, he said carefully. What are those? His mother's voice took on a tone he had never heard before. Fear. The Devourers, she whispered. They are back. Oh God. Taeyang. They are back. The beacon did not just call the Dominion. It called them. We awakened them. The display showed the unknown contacts changing course. All of them, converging on one location. The hollow system. Where they were going. Hana gripped his hand tightly. What are the Devourers? Taeyang looked at her. At Jiwon. At Doyun. At all the survivors who had placed their hope in him. He thought about the knowledge burning in his mind. The terrible history the ancients had tried to forget. They are the reason the ancients disappeared, he said quietly. They are what the ancients were running from. And we just told them exactly where to find us. The Sojourn flew on through the darkness, racing toward a destination where three forces would converge. Human survivors seeking salvation, the Dominion seeking to destroy any threat to their power, and something ancient and hungry, seeking to finish what it had started millions of years ago. Taeyang stood at the command center, his hand still in Hana's, and wondered if his mother had known this would happen. Wondered if she had sent him here to save humanity, or to face what destroyed the ancients themselves. The hollow system looked dead from the outside. A dying red star barely provided enough light to see the massive structures orbiting it. Ancient megastructures, each one larger than Earth's moon, hung in the void like monuments to a civilization that had touched godhood and then vanished. At the center of it all was the archive, a sphere of black material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Taeyang could feel it calling to him across the empty space, calling to the ancient blood in his veins. Dominion fleet entering the system, the AI announced in his mother's calm voice. 37 capital ships. They are establishing a blockade around the archive. And the other contacts? Hana asked, standing close to Taeyang at the command center. The Devourers are maintaining their distance, observing. They seem content to wait. Jiwon studied the tactical display with cold calculation. They want to see what we do. Let the Dominion soften us up first. Or they are afraid of the archive, Doyun suggested. Maybe it can hurt them. Taeyang reached out through the ship's systems, feeling the weapons ready to activate. So much power. The Sojourn had waited 70 years in perfect readiness. It could destroy that entire Dominion fleet with ease, but he would pay the price in years of his life. Maybe all his years. There has to be another way, Hana said, reading his expression. She had gotten good at that over the days they had traveled together, learning each other in the quiet moments between crises. The ship has shields, Taeyang said slowly. I can get us to the archive surface without firing a shot. But once we are inside, the Sojourn cannot follow. We will be on our own. How many can the ship's shields protect? Jiwon asked. All of us on this ship. Maybe 20 people total. Jiwon nodded sharply. Then that is our team. Doyun, Hana, myself, and the others from the transport. We go in together. Wait. A new voice called out. Someone was emerging from the transport's holding area. A Dominion officer. His uniform torn and burned. Taeyang tensed. But Jiwon raised a hand. This is Kyung, she said. Former Dominion intelligence. He helped us escape from Station Kesmet. He knows things about the Dominion's plans for the archive. Kyung looked exhausted, his face gaunt. I defected when I learned what my people did to Earth, what we have done to dozens of other worlds. I want to help. How can we trust him? Doyun demanded, his hand on his weapon. You cannot, Kyung said honestly. But I know the Inquisitor commanding that fleet. Vask. He is dying from genetic degradation. The Dominion leadership told him humans were responsible. He believes destroying you will cure him. Will it? Hana asked. No. His species was also descended from the ancients. The Dominion culled them too. Left too few alive to maintain genetic diversity. He is dying because of what the Dominion did to his own people, not because of humans. But he does not know that. Taeyang made his decision. You can come with us, but if you betray us inside the archive, there will be nowhere to run. The Sojourn accelerated toward the archive, shields flaring bright as Dominion ships opened fire. Energy bolts splashed harmlessly against ancient defensive systems. Some of the Dominion ships moved to intercept, but the Sojourn was too fast, too advanced. Within minutes, they were close enough to the archive for landing. The black sphere's surface opened like a flower, revealing a docking port clearly designed for ancient vessels. The Sojourn slipped inside, and the opening sealed behind them. Darkness surrounded them until lights began to activate. Not harsh modern lighting, but gentle bioluminescence that reminded Taeyang of deep ocean creatures. The docking bay was enormous, built to hold hundreds of ships like the Sojourn. Only theirs sat there now, alone in the darkness. Stay close, Taeyang said as they disembarked. The AI warned me the archive has defenses, security systems that might still be active. They moved through corridors of strange beauty. The walls showed images of ancient civilization at its height, cities that spanned entire continents, ships that could cross galaxies in moments, beings that looked almost human but somehow more, their eyes holding knowledge that bent reality. This is what we were, Jiwon breathed, touching one of the images. Before we fell, before we chose to fall, the AI corrected through Taeyang's communicator. The ancients made themselves human deliberately. They were hiding. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. At its center floated a sphere of pure light. But they were not alone. Standing around the core were other figures. Humans. At least 20 of them, all wearing equipment that marked them as survivors from different parts of the galaxy. They turned as Taeyang's group entered, hands moving to weapons. Wait! A woman stepped forward from the other group, young, with sharp eyes and a navigator's tattoos on her arms. Are you from the Scattered? I am Sumin. We received the beacon signal. We came to help. Relief washed through the group. More survivors. More humans answering the call. But before anyone could respond, the archive itself spoke. A voice that was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. A voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Welcome, children of the ancients. Welcome home. A figure materialized in front of the core. She appeared human, but something about her was off. Too perfect. Too still. Like a living statue. I am Yunji, she said, guardian and judge of this archive. You have come seeking knowledge, seeking power. But first, you must prove you are worthy. Worthy? Taeyang stepped forward. My mother died trying to reach this place. We have sacrificed everything to get here. Sacrifice is easy, Yunji replied. Anyone can die. But can you live with the choices I will offer you? The sphere of light pulsed. And suddenly, Taeyang was somewhere else. Not physically, but mentally. Experiencing visions pulled directly from the archive's database. He saw the ancients at their peak. Beautiful and terrible. Their technology indistinguishable from magic. He saw them discover something beyond their galaxy. An intelligence, vast and hungry. The Devourers. He saw the war that followed. Civilizations burning. Realities collapsing. The ancients, desperately searching for a way to survive. And he saw their solution. To scatter themselves across time and space. To become less. To reduce themselves to baseline genetics that the Devourers could not sense. To become human and wait, hidden, for millions of years until the Devourers grew dormant. But the plan had failed. Some ancients had tried to transcend instead of hiding, tried to escape into higher dimensions. The Devourers had caught them, consumed their transcended consciousness, and were transformed by it into something worse. The visions ended. Taeyang gasped. Back in the archive chamber, the others were recovering from their own visions. Each person shown something different based on their genetic memories. Jiwan looked shaken but determined. Show us the weapon. The archive must have something we can use against the Dominion. Oh, it does, Yunji said sadly. The wave generator. It can unmake matter at the quantum level. Fire it once and every Dominion ship in 100 light-year radius simply stops existing. Then we use it, Doyun said immediately. And become exactly what the Dominion claims we are, Hana countered. Monsters. They began arguing, voices rising. Jiwan insisted they needed to strike first, strike hard. Doyun agreed. Sumin and her group were split. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted escape. Kyung stood apart, staring at another display showing information about his own people's genocide. Tears ran down his face as he learned the truth about what the Dominion had done. Taeyang turned to Yunji. You said I have a choice. What are my options? The Guardian smiled sadly. Option 1. Take the full archive. Upload every piece of ancient knowledge into your mind. Become what the ancients were before they fell. You will have the power to fight both the Dominion and the Devourers. But doing so will mark every human in the galaxy with a psychic signature. The scattered will no longer be able to hide. Option 2? Taeyang asked, though he dreaded the answer. Take the medical data. Cures for the genetic degradation killing your people. Take it and run to the far edges of the galaxy, where neither Dominion nor Devourers can easily follow. Survive in hiding as you have been. Let the rest of the galaxy fall. Those are terrible choices, Hana said. Yes, Yunji agreed. But they are honest ones. The ancients learned there are no good solutions. Only less terrible ones. Alarms suddenly blared. The archive shuddered. What was that? Jiwan demanded. Inquisitor Vask has begun bombardment of the archive's exterior. He is using ancient killer weapons. This facility will not survive a sustained assault. How long do we have? Taeyang asked. Hours. Maybe less. He looked around at his people. At Hana, who had believed in him. At Jiwan, who had led them here. At Doyun, who had protected them. At Sumin and her group, who had come from across the galaxy on faith. At Kyung, who had betrayed his own people for the truth. At all the humans depending on him to make the right choice. There is a third option, he said slowly. The ancients tried to transcend and failed. They tried to hide, and that failed too. But what if we did both? What if we could touch transcendence while staying grounded in physical reality? Yunji's expression changed. Surprise, then something like hope. You would attempt to complete what the ancients failed? To transcend, without abandoning your mortal form? Is it possible? I do not know. The ancients never tried. They thought it had to be one or the other. The archive shuddered again. More violently. Then we will find out. Taeyang said. Because I refuse to choose between power and survival. Humanity deserves both. He turned to his people. Everyone who wants to join me, take my hand. We do this together. Hana stepped forward first. Then Sumin. Then others. Until they formed a circle around the archive's core. Even Kyung joined them. Though his hand shook, only Jiwan hesitated. This could kill you all, or it could save us, Taeyang replied. Trust me. One more time. She took his hand. The archive's light enveloped them all, and the real test began. The light burned through them. Not painful exactly, but transformative. Taeyang felt his consciousness expanding, touching something vast and ancient. The others formed anchors around him, their genetic codes linking together in ways nature never intended but the ancients had once mastered. Through their connection, he could feel what each person sacrificed to make this work. Hana gave her hope for a normal life. Jiwan surrendered her anger. Doyun let go of his guilt. Sumin released her fear. Kyung offered his very identity as one of the enemy. And from outside the archive, breaking through the bombardment, One more presence joined them. Inquisitor Vask. His genetic code was degrading, his body failing. But his mind touched theirs with desperate determination. He showed them the truth he had only just discovered. His people had been descendants of the ancients too. The Dominion had lied to them, used them, thrown them away when they were no longer needed. "Help me," he whispered across the psychic link. "Help me understand why we had to suffer." "Because the ones in power feared being replaced?" Taeyang answered. His consciousness now vast enough to speak to the dying Inquisitor, while simultaneously processing ancient knowledge. They always do. Vask's presence grew stronger as he poured what remained of his life force into their effort. "Then, take my genetic legacy. Use it. Make sure my people are not forgotten." The transformation completed. Taeyang opened his eyes. All of them. His physical ones, and new senses that perceived reality in ways humans were never meant to experience. He could see the Devourers now, truly see them. They existed partially in normal space, and partially in higher dimensions, feeding on the psychic energy of conscious beings. They had once been ancients who tried to transcend. The process had failed catastrophically, leaving them trapped between states of existence. Hungry. Alone. Insane from millions of years of isolation and hunger. They were not monsters. They were victims. Taeyang reached out to them, his consciousness now powerful enough to touch those higher dimensions. The Devourers recoiled at first, then surged forward, seeing him as prey. But he did not fight them. "I see you," he said. "I understand what you have become, and I can offer you what you have been seeking all this time." "Lies," the Devourers hissed, their voices like reality tearing. "The flesh beings always lie. They abandoned us, left us here to starve. They did not understand what went wrong. But I do now. You cannot return to physical form on your own. You are stuck between states. But with our help, you can complete the cycle. You can be born again. Trick, trap. We have heard promises before. Then look at what I am. Half transcended, but still anchored to reality. I am the bridge you need. Accept my offer, and be reborn as mortal beings. Refuse and remain as you are, hungry and alone forever." The Devourers hesitated. Taeyang could feel their vast consciousness considering. Some wanted to accept. Others, too damaged by their long madness, wanted only to destroy and consume. Those who chose destruction attacked. The battle that followed took place across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Taeyang fought not with weapons but with will, using his connection to the other humans as an anchor while his transcended consciousness grappled with beings of living hunger. Reality bent around them. The archive shook. Above, the Dominion fleet scattered as space itself became unstable. Taeyang realized he could not win by fighting. The Devourers were too powerful in their home dimensions. He had only one choice. He opened himself completely, offered his own being as a path back to mortality. The Devourers who wanted peace rushed forward, flowing through him like water through a broken dam. It was agony. His body could not contain so much transcendent energy. His cells were breaking down, his DNA rewriting itself to accommodate impossible pressures. But the others held him together. Hana, Jiwon, Doyun, Sumin, and dozens more survivors whose names he now knew intimately through their connection. They formed a living web, distributing the strain across all of them. And then Vask joined them, his dying body providing one final anchor point. The Inquisitor screamed as Devourer essence poured through him, but he held on until the last possible moment. When it ended, Vask's body crumbled to ash. But his genetic legacy survived, woven now into the new hybrid forms the Devourers had taken. Taeyang collapsed, his body covered in glowing marks that pulsed with ancient script. The others fell around him, exhausted but alive. The Devourers who had accepted rebirth were gone. scattered across the galaxy, to be born as mortal children. In the coming years, the ones who chose destruction had been trapped in higher dimensions, sealed away by the Archive's final defense systems. It was over. Weeks passed in a blur. The Dominion fleet, witnessing impossible events, had fled. Some ships defected, their crews now knowing the truth about the genocide and genetic culling their leaders had orchestrated. The Archive collapsed into itself, its purpose fulfilled. But before it did, Yunji transferred all essential data to the Sojourn and dozens of other ancient ships that had awakened throughout the hollow system. Taeyang stood on the command deck, looking at his reflection. The glowing marks covered his arms and neck, permanent reminders of what he had become. Not fully human anymore, but not fully ancient either. Something new. Hana joined him, her own marks faint but present. All of them who had participated in the transformation bore these signs now. Jiwon has been broadcasting the truth about Earth's genocide on every frequency, she said. Half the galaxy is in civil war. Species learning their leaders ordered genocide on their own people. The Dominion is collapsing. Nundered, Nunder's 40s, and us. We are stepping out of the shadows. Scattered cells across every sector, revealing themselves. We are not hiding anymore. Taeyang took her hand. The connection between them ran deeper now, strengthened by what they had shared in the Archive. What do we do now? Ow. We build, Hana said simply. We help. The galaxy is breaking, Taeyang. It needs mediators, not conquerors. People who understand the cost of power. Over the following months, that was exactly what they became. Taeyang led a coalition of humans and defectors from dozens of species. They brokered peace where possible, fought when necessary, and slowly began rebuilding a galaxy that had been controlled by lies for too long. Jiwon took command of the ancient fleet, including the Sojourn. She was harder now, more ruthless. But Taeyang understood. She had waited so long for the chance to fight back that mercy did not come easily. Doyun and Kyung, unlikely friends, trained soldiers for the new order, former enemies learning to trust each other. Sumin mapped safe routes through the chaos, helping refugee populations flee to safer systems. 5 years after the Archive, Taeyang stood on a restored colony world watching the sunset. Beside him, Hana held their daughter, Seora. The child had been born with faint glowing marks, a sign of the new genetics all human children would carry now. She was the first of a generation that would grow up free. Do you regret it? Hana asked, the same question she asked every few months. Choosing the third path? You could have taken the simple answers. Taeyang smiled, wrapping his arm around his family. Simple answers lead to simple futures. Humanity has been simple for too long. Hiding, surviving, barely existing. We needed to be complicated again, messy, alive. Above them, the stars shone bright. And in those stars, visible to anyone with ancient genetic markers, patterns formed. Not words exactly, but meanings encoded in the fabric of space itself. Messages from the survivors, from the humans who refused to stay hidden, from the species who had joined them in building something new. And at the center of those patterns, Taeyang's name burned bright. Not as a threat or a warning, but as a promise. We are here. We survived. We remember. And we will never hide again. 10 years later, in a school on New Earth, a teacher told children about the day humanity returned to the stars. About Taeyang, who became the bridge between mortal and transcendent. About the humans who chose the hard path instead of the easy one. The children listened with wide eyes, some of them bearing the same glowing marks as the heroes in the story. One child raised her hand. Teacher, is it true the ancients watch us from the transcended realm? The teacher smiled. She was older now, but still fierce. Jiwon had given up command of the fleet to teach the next generation. Yes, she said, they watch and wait, proud of what their children have become. We fell from greatness once, choosing to be small and hidden to survive. But we climbed back up, not as gods this time, "What is that?" another child asked. "Human," Jiwan replied simply. "Complicated, stubborn, occasionally stupid, but never giving up. That is what the ancients forgot, and what we remembered. Power is not about being immortal or transcendent. It is about choosing to stand up, even when you are afraid. About protecting the weak, even when it costs you. About refusing to let anyone tell you that you do not matter." The children nodded solemnly, absorbing the lesson. Outside the classroom, Taeyang walked with Seora, now 10 years old, and asking endless questions about everything. Above them, ancient ships moved through the sky, not weapons now, but transports, construction vessels, research stations, tools for building instead of destroying. "Dad," Seora asked, "will there be another war?" "Probably," Taeyang admitted. "Peace is hard work. Some people will always choose violence. But we will win?" He thought about that question carefully. About all the battles he had fought, all the sacrifices made, all the impossible choices faced. "We will survive," he said finally. "That is what humans do. We adapt, we persist, we find a way. Win or lose, we keep going. That is our real superpower, Seora. Not ancient genetics or transcendent consciousness. Just stubborn, unreasonable hope." She thought about that, then smiled. "I can do that. I know you can," he said, pulling her close. "You are your grandmother's granddaughter." And she never gave up either. They walked home together under alien skies that no longer felt quite so alien. Home was not a planet anymore. It was wherever humans gathered, to build, to dream, to live. And across the galaxy, that home was growing. In stations and colonies, in ships and settlements, in 1,000 different systems, humans were putting down roots. Some partnered with other species. Some kept to themselves. But all of them carried the knowledge that they were no longer alone, no longer hunted. They were free. In the transcendent realm, the fully ascended ancients watched their descendants with something like pride. The children had learned what their parents forgot. That life was meant to be lived, not escaped. That mortality gave meaning to existence. That choosing to be vulnerable was the bravest thing any being could do. And in a hidden system on the edge of known space, the last of the sealed devourers waited in their prison, waiting for the day someone would give them a second chance at redemption. But that was a story for another time, another generation. For now, under stars that knew their names, humanity rested, healed, grew. And when they were ready, they would reach out again. Not to conquer or control, but to explore, to learn, to meet whatever came next with open hands and stubborn hope. Because that was what it meant to be human. To survive impossible odds and then ask what is next. To fall from greatness and climb back up, changed but unbroken. To be the last survivors of a dead world and become the first seeds of something new. They tried to hide Earth's last survivor, but the stars already knew his name. And through him, the galaxy learned to remember what it meant to hope again.